The 1950s were a veritable golden age of creature movies. Seminal works such as Them, Creature from the Black Lagoon, and The Fly have well earned their places in the annals of science fiction and horror. Of course, for every great monster movie, there are a smattering of others which are, well, not so hot. The decade birthed many dozens of monstrous spectacles, ranging from the profound to the absurd. Inevitably, some unsung classics have slipped through the cracks. Today, we're going to look at 3 overlooked gems that deserve more of a reputation than history has granted them. I'm Tyler Martin, and this is Monsters from the Id. Our first offering for today is 1957's The Monster That Challenged the World. Long unfairly lumped in with the likes of lesser pictures like Attack of the Giant Leeches and Beginning of the End, this movie stands head and shoulders above such lackluster fare and serves as a veritable masterclass in the making of low-budget monster flicks. Shortly after a small earthquake in the vicinity of California's Salton Sea, a nearby naval base conducts a routine training parachute jump. But when things go wrong and the patrol boat doesn't respond, Lieutenant Commander John Twilliger leads another boat to investigate. They find traces of a mysterious slime and the body of the jumper severely disfigured. In short order, he begins an investigation alongside Dr. Jess Rogers and Rogers' assistant, widow Gail McKenzie. More mysterious disappearances follow, spurring another expedition onto the lake where Twill and company are attacked by a hideous monster. The beast is subdued, and an egg is retrieved and taken back to Dr. Rogers' lab for analysis, kept under temperature control to prevent hatching. It is revealed that the earthquake has opened a fissure at the bottom of the lake, unleashing a horde of prehistoric mollusk monsters. These creatures begin to wreak more havoc when they make their way out from the lake via irrigation canals. Meanwhile, back at the lab, an innocent mistake could spell further disaster. On paper, this cookie-cutter plot doesn't amount to much. It sounds just like countless other genre programmers of the time, and maybe that's why it hasn't gained much notoriety. What sets The Monster That Challenged the World apart is its execution. Rather than simply go through the motions, director Arnold Lavin and screenwriter Pat Fielder infused the story with an earnest humanity, endowing even minor characters with enough personality to feel like genuine human beings, like people we might actually know. Instead of simply watching a parade of ciphers reciting lines and moving the story along, the audience can taste the tension, terror, and anguish of these figures because they're so relatable. From leads Tim Holt and Audrey Dalton down to the most minor supporting players, the cast shines as they inhabit these natural, lifelike roles. Other pluses include one of the coolest and most frightening monster designs of the period, brought to life using full-size props, making them truly menacing. And a memorable musical score by Heinz Rohmheld, portions of which would later be used in the American cut of King Kong vs. Godzilla, the Japanese original of which was helmed by Ishiro Honda, whose 1958 opus, The H-Man, makes our second feature. Inspired by the success of such hits as Godzilla and Rodan, themselves instant classics still beloved by monster fans the world over, Japan's Toho Studios assigned Honda and effects wizard Eiji Tsuburaya to a slew of monster and sci-fi themed productions in the following years. One of those less well-remembered is The H-Man. Our story begins with a drug smuggler suddenly vanishing during a getaway attempt, leaving behind only his clothes. Police question the man's girlfriend, nightclub singer Chikako, who is just as puzzled as they are. Similar incidents follow. While the police focus on the usual gangs and assorted lowlifes, scientist Masada believes the cases to be connected with radiation, and his own investigation ultimately reveals that crewmen aboard a fishing boat which had strayed into the path of a hydrogen bomb test were mutated, transformed into frightening gelatinous entities which feed on their victims by dissolving them into liquid and absorbing them. Even amid mounting evidence, the cops find this explanation hard to swallow, and while Masada and Chikako contend with obstinate police and ruthless gangsters, the Liquid Killer's rampage looks set to menace the entire human race. It is perhaps natural that this movie is often compared to Irvin Yeworth's The Blob, which it predates by a few months, though in my personal opinion, The H-Man is the more interesting film. The fusion of science fiction and horror with detectives, gangsters, and seedy nightclubs makes for a rather novel viewing experience. The creature's origin is a very pointed reference to the infamous Lucky Dragon No. 5 incident, which caused quite a stir in Japan and abroad, and directly inspired Honda and Tsuburaya's 1954 classic Godzilla. The cast is solid, including Rodan leads Kenji Sahara and Yumi Shirakawa, and a reliable band of Toho stalwarts, and the effects are inventively conceived and executed. In particular, the gruesome deaths of the creature's victims, their clothing collapsing as they are reduced to goo, are sure to leave an impression. Now, in fairness, not everything works. The rich pathos and humanity that defines Honda's greatest work is all but absent here, and there's a disconnect going on in the finale which I won't spoil. Still, this is a more impressive movie than The Blob, and it's certainly worth a look if you're in the mood for something a little different. And why not end this video with another something different? Hammer's The Abominable Snowman from 1957. Often considered a lesser entry in the Hammer catalog, it's actually a very intelligent and atmospheric picture that gives the viewer a lot to chew on. British botanist John Rawlinson, on expedition in the Himalayas alongside his wife Helen and assistant Fox, are guests at a Tibetan monastery. An American group led by Tom Friend, on the hunt for the fabled Yeti, soon arrives. Rawlinson, intrigued by the possibility of the creature's existence, joins Friend's team against Helen's wishes. It soon becomes apparent that Rawlinson's and Friend's motives are at odds, as Friend is revealed to be a con artist seeking publicity. Still, they soldier on, ultimately finding themselves set against mysterious forces from without and within, which none of them could have anticipated, and which threatened to drive them all to madness and, ultimately, death. Made amid a wave of public interest in the subject of the titular beast, The Abominable Snowman proved to be a fascinating take on the concept of the Yeti. Nigel Neal's screenplay deftly explores human frailties while offering a remarkably thoughtful take on the Yeti itself, the profound implications of which resonate strongly with this YouTuber. Director Val Guest crafts a wonderfully taut atmosphere and chooses to preserve the sense of mystery by hiding the creatures almost completely. Save for a hand here or a silhouette there, we never really see them, and although this is certain to be a turnoff for some viewers, it's all for the benefit of the story and the message it has to convey. The majesty and mystique of the Himalayan setting are accentuated by outstanding set design and an evocative score by Humphrey Searle. The cast, headed by Peter Cushing and Forrest Tucker, do the film great justice, though modern audiences may take exception to the use of white actors in Asian roles. To their credit, these never descend into crass caricature, and Arnold Marley is particularly excellent as the llama. While the great majority of movies about the Yeti and similar legendary man-beasts skew closer to the bottom of the monster movie barrel, The Abominable Snowman is a very noteworthy exception. It's an enlightened and thought-provoking interpretation of the subject, and well worth your time. These are but 3 overlooked classics from an era that produced quite a few. And whether I've inspired you to seek them out, or driven you to tears of rage or boredom, I'd like to thank you for watching. And if you would like to share a recommendation of your own, or have thoughts about mine, let me know in the comments. I'll see you next time.